There we go. Officially 3 days out. Not a lot of stuff to do today. Because this is, with no lift, all today is kind of just getting ready to dry out. Basically eat very minimal calories side of things and just kind of chill, really. So this is, I think, kind of the biggest sort of stepping stone moment of like, all right, there's nothing else to be done. There's no more pumps. There's no more fat to be lost. I'm not gonna get any bit substantially leaner in terms of like my body fat composition over the next 2 days. And in a daily sort of approach like that, you don't make changes over such a short period of time. So that's kind of a good little thing to keep in mind if you've got a certain like 2025 goal or 2030 goal or 2026, whatever. It's like, dude, that year is going to pass, and if you don't start moving at least a little bit now, kind of early on, and put in those sort of base layer support building hours, you're never going to get that pinnacle on top, right? And that's what the fancy part of all this shit is. Like even usually I'm referencing like the workout itself, because if I can go into the gym, go hard, crazy pumped, everything feels awesome, I've got a good amount of energy. Workouts don't feel like a chore. Workouts feel fun, exciting. That's the way I want to do it. That's the way I like it. So if like my sleep is shit, I'm not going to have as much fun during the workout, But everything that goes into making sure I feel extra good for that workout is down here, right? This whole base layer of good sleep, good hydration, eating a good amount of food, making sure I hit all my nutrients and everything else, and then just having a reasonably like smooth sailing sort of approach, so that when I put myself in a position to really push it, I'm already ready. You know what I'm saying? But let's how about we get a couple Q&A questions before we do a little maybe a little bit of a nighttime check-in, because honestly I wasn't lying when I talked about the 3 states of being either eating something, sleeping, or lifting and doing the cardio. So now that the eating something and the lifting is kind of out of the picture, I'm really just sleeping around all day. I feel so freaking lazy. But let's get a few here. Settle the bulk versus cut debate. Which is harder? Well, obviously I think you know what I would say right now, being this thick into this dieting phase. But it depends on the guy. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think the positives and the difficulties of either one are different. Like it's apples and oranges. You get to eat as much food as you want for the most part, depending on the guy. But for somebody who's a bit of a hard gainer, even eating more than 2,500 calories in one sitting, that could feel like they're about to freaking pop, And if you've got a bit of or less of a good grasp on control of your own appetite, the idea of even getting close to like a 2,500 calorie a day deficit is like torture for some of these guys, because this is the spectrum of the hard gainer versus the hard cutter per se, right? Because this guy, he's kind of lean all the time. He doesn't have a problem just working out, staying pretty active. But for him to put on weight, because he doesn't have that urge to just scarf down food at all times, right? He's got it a bit trickier. And then the guy who can eat whatever the hell he wants because he can just put it down like he's got a black hole for his stomach. For him to start to try to cut down, right, that's a bigger problem. So I think the real argument here, or not argument, but point to be made, is you got to find out which of those guys you are. Right? Are you somebody who is a bit more, calorie challenged, or somebody who's a bit more deficit challenged? And then, you just got to approach it accordingly. For me, I think I'm right in the middle, because I can do either reasonably, well, not even reasonably consistently, but I can do either consistently. But yeah, right now I would definitely say that the dieting is harder. But that's just because, I'm in the middle of it, so I'm a little bit biased. What's the best exercise for lower chest? Now that's something I feel might be a little bit surprising for some of you to hear me say, because I don't do much lower chest work. And really it's just a situation of your lower chest gets a lot of work all the time. Every time you lean over a table and stand up and push, lower chest. Every time you do a tricep push down, your lower chest is coming into play a little bit. Even when you do like cable pullovers for your back, your lower chest is coming into play just a touch. And then every time you do any pressing, usually, if you can feel your chest right now and you start to flex it, it starts from the bottom. Like that sort of signal usually starts from the bottom, and then your chest gets more solid up toward the top. right? So your lower chest gets a lot of work. So for the most part, unless you can tell it's lacking, I don't think it needs anything too direct. But if I had to pick maybe two, I would say either body weight dips, which I don't really do now just because, I mean, the lower chest big enough. But either the body weight dips, potentially weighted if you're feeling extra crazy, or some decline kind of flies. So I'm not talking like the weird back and forth to the front sort of thing. But if the cables are here and here, right, I've got a few options. I can either just do flies straight in my body like a pec deck, or I can rotate the whole angle of operations downward and do flies like this. And it's such a good movement. I mean, there's machines that are made specifically like emulating that with two like big metal arms where you're doing this kind of closing action. And usually if you throw some of those in, especially end of a lift, lower pec wise, I think you're good. I'd be more concerned with just your overall intensity of that lift and just how pumped you managed to get. Darby, would you get a low taper fade? No, not today at least. But I did go get a haircut pre-show, get a little bit prettied up. But it's really just squaring off the edges, cleaning things up a little bit. Not a big change. So for anybody who's curious, you know, when will the long hair come back? I'm trying. Right? I'm trying my absolute damnedest to grow it out as quick as possible. But unfortunately, that's more of a physiological thing. It's not just going to happen extra quick because I want it to. How long do you think it'll be until you reach your peak form, or until you think you're done? Well, I'll never be done, right? Because it's kind of just it's a little cheesy when people say this, I feel, but it really is sort of like a lifestyle kind of thing. Like once you start working out for real, diet, training, cardio, like you understand, like, oh, I just feel good being a guy who has this daily active routine, because you know, your body isn't just this like sedentary sort of thing where you can just let it sit. I mean, the more you move it around, the better it's going to operate, the better you're going to feel. Just like the gym's never going away. But in terms of reaching like a peak size, yeah, we're getting close. I don't know how many more bulking phases and dieting phases it's going to take, but I think we're on track. Maybe sooner than later, but frankly, I don't mind if it takes freaking forever, right? Because this whole path of growing, bulking down, bulking up, cutting down, like that's the really fun part, you know? So I guess we'll just see when that happens. Best workout advice for beginners who are looking to maximize gains and increase weight. That's a very concise way to say that. Cash Tazalak 7221, because I think that's what we're all aiming for, right? We all want to gain muscle. We all want to maximize our gains. We all want to beef up. So really, what do you think? You know, probably just work out more, right? Work out consistently. Try to improve it over time. I mean, if somebody were to ask, like David Goggins, dude, I want to run 5 miles. How can I do it? What should I be practicing to be able to do that? You know what he's going to say? He's going to be like, damn motherfucker, run. But like for real, the action of practicing that endeavor is what's going to make you better at it, you know? So if you want to get better at working out, hour a day, go to the gym, work out, practice, see how you feel. Maybe on movements where form is a little bit more of a situation, have somebody record you, set your phone up against a dumbbell, re-watch your set. I've really gotten a lot of benefits out of kind of unforeseen almost, now that I get to record every lift, is I get to go back and watch an instant replay of how all these sets look and how they're done. So if I ever have any like jarring, like I'm leaning way over here for this arm, but not so much for this arm, or if my shoulder's up or down, I get a good little like instant kind of, okay, how did that set look? What should I work on? And I mean, it really does help kind of just overall, and I think improve my gains, form, everything else. But all I could say there, lift hard, eat hard, sleep hard, drink a ton of water. And as you improve your training over time, a lot of these answers will be sort of revealed to you. Do you ever consider changing workout splits, like a higher frequency split? Yeah, I mean, I consider it, but I don't think that's where the magic is. You know, like if you're panning for gold in terms of gains, it's not like, okay, I want to gain double the weight I just gained in my last bulking phase. I better do an upper-lower split versus a push-pull leg split. I'm not so concerned. I think those arguments get a little bit silly because it's like you're still getting your overall workload for the week. I think if you're a guy where you're extra busy and you have to, you can't just be in the gym every day or even just 6 times a week where you've got time for a full push, pull legs, like you can only go 4 times a week or once every other day, then I think an upper lower, could be perfect. So when it comes to the workout splits, I think the issue is more so, okay, what's the best workout split for your routine, right? And then aim to hit every body part twice a week-ish. And beyond those 2 factors, just do the lift that you like, right? Like you're not going to catch me do a ton of like push days where I do chest and tris or back and bis, just because I don't really like it, right? I'd rather do chest on their own, back on its own, and have a dedicated arm day and a completely dedicated leg day. So it's more so do something which you can do very consistently, enjoy, and then try to improve upon. And then once you get kind of tired of it, like if you get a little bit bored, like, oh man, I've been doing push-pull legs for the last 6 months, then flip it around. Maybe switch to like an Arnold split or something. Do I prefer the cut look or the bulky fullness? Do I like bulking or cutting more? Well, like I said a second ago, it's really just a balance. Because obviously, you look like a total freak show, cut down, veins, striations, everything else, waist extra tapered. Like, you're just extra cool. And then when you're bulked up, obviously, physically just bigger. I mean, like by a factor of stone, if that's a weight measurement that you're used to. But I mean, you have to take that with everything else that goes along with it, right? You look extra freaky and veiny and vascular and striated if you get extra lean, but then you got to deal with that all day because now you can't just grab a Reese's cup or a bowl of treats or whatever else. If you're bulking up, you can have whatever you want. You're full, you're energized, all your lifts are pretty crazy, and it's at the cost of, all right, no more abs, or at least no more ab veins and no more separations and everything else like that. So it's really just a personal preference of, all right, which one kind of matches what you like the most. And I think going back and forth between the two, gradually making gains over time, because it's like bulk, cut, right, with an average trend line to the positive, it just kind of, well, it gives you the best of both worlds. But I could probably lean towards, I prefer the bulking side of things, but don't forget I'm a little bit biased right now because I've been relatively strict with my eating for the last we're coming up on like nearly 5 months. This is probably, this is my longest legit dieting phase ever, so I'm sure there's going to be a nice relief once I just start chowing down on whatever. For a cut, how is your training intensity? And what can I do best to maintain as much muscle as possible while losing fat? So the training intensity I don't think should change too much, right? Like my approach when I come into the gym, this last week has been a little different. Like prep week, you're really kind of fluctuating your water and everything else, extra depleted. So that's a little bit different. But just general dieting, just go as hard as you can, right? I don't care if I can curl the 80s when I'm bulking and I have to only grab the 50s when I'm dieting, because in both states, I'm just trying to grab a weight where it's like, okay, this is going to be a hard set of 10. Like relatively, it feels the same, So if all the weight in the gym had no numbers, all I'm still going to do is, okay, I'm going to pick a weight where I'm like, okay, this feels pretty heavy, and go hard. So if your strength fluctuates even on like a day-by-day basis, like if you come in to do a chest day one day and you're like, man, 135 ain't supposed to feel like this. Shit. Don't freak, right? Maybe your sleep was off, maybe your hydration was off, maybe just some other random factor out of your control and you got hit by a stray gamma wave and it like just totally knocked your nervous system out or whatever. Like, just go as hard as you can in the moment, right? This is a good little analogy where it's like, okay, if you can only give 10% effort, but you actually give that full 10%, then you gave 100, right? So I wouldn't freak about little day-by-day changes. And if you're dieting down, just make sure to go hard. Don't hurt yourself, but make sure you're really pushing. That's all I could say there. All right, we're getting close. This is the second to last one. When first transitioning from cutting to bulking, what's the process like and how would I go about proceeding with it without gaining any excess fat? So I think the process of cutting down into a bulk, that's where you really need to kind of transition it slowly. Like for me, I mean, as soon as I start eating a ton of food, once I'm done with, once these shows are over, I'm going to balloon back up like 20 pounds. But that's not like, I'm not saying I'm going to eat 6,000 calories a day of everything. Like just from rehydrating, refilling up, like I'll probably shoot up an extra 20, right? And get back to my regular walk around weight. And I won't be much softer. Like I'll be the same body fat level-ish. But I've been used to eating, low 2,000 calories every day. If I suddenly started slamming 5,000 off the rip, my body's used to eating 2,000. I've now suddenly doubled it in a half to 5. I'm going to use some of that calories to start building muscle and, beefing up again. But that's only like this much, right? I mean, if this is my maintenance calories and I eat here, right, this is a bit of a surplus. This somewhere is the right amount of extra calories where like this is as much as I can eat, gain as much muscle as I'm capable of while I'm bulking up, but not store too much as body fat, right? Like if there was some alternate reality where I could eat 10,000 calories a day, Hafthor Bjornsson style, at my size, after 3 months, I would be a damn sumo wrestler in terms of my actual build because I can only use so many of those calories. So I'd say just ease into it. Start, like if you've actually been dieting for real, that first month of bulking, you don't even have to sweat it, right? Hit your protein, eat when you're hungry, and you should see some steady weight gain kind of slowly. And then once that starts to slow down and plateau, like, all right, man, I just went from 180 to 195. I've just been eating whatever I want. All right, sweet. I've been 195 for about 3 weeks or 2 weeks. That's when you got to say, okay, I got to start eating a little bit more food. And if you track all your calories and everything, then that's no longer like a mystery because you've been counting everything. You know how much to up it, right? So, okay, I've been eating 2,500 calories on average the last month. I'm starting to slow down, 195. All right, I better up it to 2,800, maybe 3,000 if you're feeling extra crazy. But when it comes to bulking to cutting down, that's where I don't mind jumping straight into a little bit of a bigger drop. Like I'm not talking starvation mode, 5,000 calories to 2,500, but same thing, right? Bulking up, I'm eating a ton of food. Like the end of this last bulking phase, I was on like 5,000 a day average. So that first month of dieting, right, where I was losing weight, that was just when I'm hungry, eat. Because I'm still getting back to my regular baseline. And then as my weight loss started to slow down, cut some more calories, cut some more calories, cut some more calories, maintaining kind of a steady trend line downward. So, all right, last one here. How do I stay motivated and stick to my diet? I've been lifting on and off for about 3 years and I can never stick to it. Well, I guess it's, you just got to have a mental vision of what you want, man, right? I mean, if you can imagine what you would look like, okay, 10 pounds lighter, 15 pounds lighter, X percentage leaner, there's no way around it. Like you got to put in these kind of little steps on the regular, on a consistent basis, or at least on average. Like I've had some nasty days here. Like even just like a month and a half ago, I had like an 8,000 calorie just blowout, eat everything in sight. As I say as a refeed. Really, I was just like, okay, I'm dying here. I gotta get this out of my system. But when I do the average of my calorie intake over those 1.5 months, it's still that 2,000, right? Low, 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 massive spike, low, 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 low. It kind of matches into the trend and gets averaged out, So you can have a day every so often when you just go nuts, but your average, right? You've got to be more accurate or more correct than you are wrong, right? If you answer more questions on a test right, then you miss a few. Sure, you missed a couple, but on average, hey man, you got a B plus. You're cool. If you miss them more than half the time, more than 80% of the time, and with the dieting, I mean, dude, you got to be pretty strict here. I'm talking like out of 2 weeks, even having one insane calorie day could kind of start slowing down your fat loss progress. So, I mean, I think it would be safe to say if you stuck to a real deficit, once a month, you can have a day where you eat basically anything you want, right? And it should be able to reasonably balance itself out because those other 29 days of the month, you actually were in a calorie deficit, burning more energy than you ate. But yeah, man. Well, I can tell you one thing that's definitely going to help. You got to download a macro tracker and make that one of your most open apps on your phone every day than anything else. So maybe decrease the scrolling just a touch. But I think that's all we got there. So we can We can cut to a little check-in later, but I'm going back to sleep, man. Not a lot to do today. Today is most definitely a waiting game, and then we'll have some more activities tomorrow because I got check-ins, tan, everything else. It'll one day out will be a little more eventful than this little 2 days out check-in. All right, this is getting wild here. I think this might have been the first day that I really did basically jack in terms of physical activity, which is kind of the point right now. I mean, I'm trying to de-stress, de-inflame, totally whatever. I mean, like pre-show, like if the day before you went up to try to pose down and pump up and everything else, and you just finished like a crazy chest workout, your chest is just, that soreness and fatigue, it's going to kind of show through. That's the basic gist of the situation. So it's like, it's like the light at the end of the tunnel of the whole crazy dieting and cardio and everything else is a day of kind of just chilling. So in terms of the last meal of the day, so this puts me at 2 days out, you're looking at it. The food has been eaten, right? We're in a real depleted kind of state now. If I thought I was getting depleted before, oh my goodness. Yeah, not freaking exactly. So plans tomorrow, 2 o'clock check-ins, get sprayed up, but that'll be for then. So yeah, this is getting kind of funky here. But yeah, my plan now, probably watch some kind of movie, some sort of something or other. Not exactly sure what. Maybe I'll scan around. I've been watching EPO, like the boxing show. I got like maybe 50, 60 episodes in, and then for whatever reason I kind of had to drop it. But yeah, I'm not exactly sure why. Well, good show, right? A little bit more, not legit, but a little more maybe realistic than something like Baki. But that's some hype ass motivation for sure. So really, all I'm going to do now until check-ins and sort of pose downs and little kind of fluctuations of carbs and everything else is a lot of this. Just kind of chilling. We've got a couple activities to complete over there. I'm talking chess set. I'm talking cards. I'm talking Mortal Kombat. I'm talking Pac-Man. I'm talking a pool table, which frankly is a little scrappy. Not even just the cue balls, but the thing itself, the felt and whatever else. Not exactly super fun. But there's freaking like 10 empty gallons of water bottles over there. I don't think I've ever drank this much water in this much of a concentration in my freaking life. Because that's kind of the plan, right? Slam a ton, and as soon as you pull it, which by pull it just means you're not drinking anything for a while, at least nothing of any noticeable amount, then you start really sort of drying out everything else. So I'll be at my driest and flattest in some sort of time frame tomorrow, and then I'll have the rest of that night coming into actual show day to really kind of carb up and maximize my freak factor, which I think we all get a basic grasp of. That's kind of what I'm really aiming for here. But apart from that, that's kind of it. Maybe so Mark and my dad, they're flying in later tonight, and in my mind I was kind of imagining like, all right, we get to go back to Vegas. We got an Airbnb with a pool. I'll get to just hang out, lay in the sun. What the hell? It's a goddamn hurricane out there right now, and it's like 40 degrees. So kind of I might be feeling a little bit cooped up inside, but yeah, no freaking biggie there. So once they get here, I'm sure I'm still going to be awake. So we'll get a little Marky and Pops unloading action. But until then, I'm going to get a show watching, maybe kind of fall asleep, have like a pre-actual sleep nap, and I guess I'll see for whatever the next clip ends up being of this 2 days out check-in.